Welcome to the Fifth Estate, a conversation between young African scholars from the Fort Hall School of Government and Professor Mutahi Ngunyi. Today we will discuss the scarcity theory of politics and how scarcity is responsible for the political death of CORD and the stunted growth and jubilee. We will go through three progressive stages: competition, conflict, and confrontation.
Political scarcity breeds three types of reactions. The first is competition, which is pretty much a market response to limited supply of political goods.
Politics is who gets what, when, and how. That is a definition that you give 101 to the first year students at university. The important part of that definition is the getting. And we must not be apologetic about getting, not in the sense of our turn to it, but in the sense of why are we getting into politics, or of what use is politics to us. So when people are invited into coalitions, they must be told why they're getting into this coalition. But if we continue to lie to ourselves that we are doing it for the love of country, for the love of peace in this nation, then we will only but degenerate into a situation of confrontation. And that is the reason why, in a situation where there is scarcity, as in this particular election, scarcity of positions in particular, you end up distributing lies to people. You end up distributing illusions to people. You end up distributing hope that you will not even be able to fulfill. And you end up basically saying, let's keep them hoping but never satisfied.
We have three core principles, or they might end up being four. We are looking forward to a few other core principles joining us. And there will only be two positions available, the president and his deputy. Surely, unless you think the supporters of the other core principles are imbeciles or robots, they will be asking that core principle, what is our stake in this particular government? Yes. So we are saying, open the constitution. Where does it make it illegal when the president is not naming his cabinet from saying that the member shall be the chief minister or prime minister?
As the scarcity increases, the competition degenerates into conflict. This is the second reaction. Conflict happens when the rules of engagement are unable to process the demands of the contestants, either because the demands have outgrown the rules or because the institutions of rule application have misapplied them. For instance, the crisis in CORD has transitioned from competition to conflict because of rule misapplication.
Imitation is a fundamental mechanism of human behavior, that people can desire anything as long as other people seem to desire it too. According to Thomas Hobbes, if any two men desire the same thing, but they cannot both enjoy it, they become enemies, and in the way to their end, they will destroy one another. So how can we as Kenyans begin to reduce the lust for power, the fatal consequences that sometimes arise as a result of conflict and competition?
I also told our brother Raila, wewe umejaribu bwana. Umejaribu, ukajaribu tena. Hii mambo saa zingine inabadilika. Hata katika ndoa, huko kwetu, msichana mzuri kama huyu anaolewa. Mwezi moja, wazee hawaoni kitu. Mwezi mbili, hawaoni kitu. Mwezi ya tatu, hawaoni kitu. Mashangazi wanakuja, alafu wanamwambia msichana, pengine huyu kijana ana fire blanks. Jaribu uko nje kidogo. Anaenda anajaribu, munaona kitu inaonekana. Na kitu inaonekana, akiangusha mtoto, huyo mtoto ni wako. Hakuna mtu atajua. Na vile tumejaribu na Raila na hatuoni kitu, tunamwambia wewe mzee sasa, umefanya kazi, una heshima yako, you will have a special place in the CORD government.
Scarcity politics in CORD has now degenerated from competition to conflict. And this is made manifest in three obvious ways. Number one, soft cannibalization. And Wetangula telling Raila that he has become politically impotent is one case in point. Number two is blind ambition. And nothing demonstrates this better than Wetangula telling us that Raila is politically impotent, but that he, Wetangula, has now become the villager who has the oomph to make the girl pregnant, because that's essentially what he told us. The third manifestation of scarcity politics in code is political hallucinations. And the man suffering from this right now is Raila Odinga. For Raila to degenerate to a point where he has decided to abandon the battlefield and go for the soldiers who seem to have deserted him, I think that is stooping far too low.
This is a short sermon for Raila Odinga. Raila, now that you've become a Christian, this is how to grow spiritually, and most importantly, this is how to grow politically. The fact is, according to Miles Monroe, you never grow in good times. You never progress unless you are under pressure. If your resolve is not tested, then your resolution will not have any gravity. You've been tested in the political wilderness of detention, police cells, and political cold. As such, you cannot quit in your resolve. People who quit after the first failure never intended to succeed in the first place. You cannot stop a man who decides to win.
The third reaction is confrontation. While in the conflict stage, the players have faith in the rules. In the confrontation stage, they have lost faith in the rules and in the agencies of rule application. Under conflict, the actors go for the voice option and speak out against the rules and institutions. But under confrontation, they go for the exit option and seek solutions outside the formal realm.
In Kenya, the value of the presidency is not based on its rarity. It is based on effort. In other words, the harder it is to stop the opposition from gaining the presidency, the more valuable it is. Or, the easier it is to lose the presidency to the opposition, the more valuable it becomes. And that is why when you introduce a scarce resource, such as the presidency, into an environment of scarcity, the inevitable result is confrontation.
If we are in a time of scarcity in the political marketplace, and this has degenerated into competition, conflict, and confrontation, isn't the solution a revision of the Constitution? My reading of Article 255 of the Constitution indicates that the structure of the national executive can be amended without having to undergo a referendum. Is it possible for Parliament to change the Constitution to include the position of Prime Minister and 2 deputies? What will the process entail? If it is possible to amend Articles 130 and 152 to create these positions, then a 2/3 majority in Parliament will be required. Now, neither of the 2 majority coalitions, that is, the Jubilee Party and CORD, have the numbers to pass such a bill on their own. They would need to work together. Can we really expect JP and CORD to work together on this one?
To be able to change the structure of the national executive, that's the president, the deputy, and the 22 cabinet secretaries, you don't need to go to a referendum. All you need is 2/3 majority within Parliament. You alter a few sections here and there, and bang, you have the changes you require. And all we need to do in this particular moment of scarcity is to go into the Constitution and that executive component in particular, and then create 5 positions out of it. We create position of president, position of deputy president, position of non-executive prime minister, and then 2 deputy prime ministers. But for this particular project to run, it needs a champion. And there cannot be a better champion for the creation of a position of prime minister through a parliamentary process than one Raila Amolo Odinga. This idea was originally his idea, which he abandoned in Naivasha. And if he can take it up and go with it, I am very sure that the JP parliamentarians will be more than happy to support it as well. It's a kind of thing that you put it into Parliament in the morning, by afternoon it is done, because it serves the good of the nation, it serves the good of the politicians, it creates a little consensus amongst the different interests that are at play, and ultimately it is the winning formula in my view, for this election.
This is the second part of the Sunday sermon to Raila. According to Miles Monroe, memory has a way of paralyzing man. The greatest enemy of your progress is your past success or failure. The past is dangerous, and that is why forgetting is a gift of God. Take Apostle Paul, for example. He was a serial killer who murdered Christians with relish. Moses of the Bible was also a killer. Had these great men been paralyzed by their memories, they would have been great failures. The sermon to you, Mr. Odinga, therefore, is this. You are the father of this idea of Prime Minister. Then you abandoned this noble idea in the Naivasha parliamentary coup that gave us the current constitution. Now you live in guilt, a prisoner of one bad memory. Although you know the position of Prime Minister is good for your coalition, you're ashamed of going back to an idea that you abandoned in Naivasha. Our appeal to you is this. Liberate yourself from the bondage of this bad decision embedded in your memory.